under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks. No, it's 3 o'clock by my... Call to order. Minutes, resolution 2491 to accept the minutes of May 1st, 2024.
Second.
Any corrections, comments, questions? See none, all in favor?
What's this? I'm not voting because I was Zoom. Can I vote as a Zoom?
Absolutely.
Okay, then I'm joining the majority.
All right, thank you. We were going to abstain, but that's all right. Either way, we've been fine.
Okay.
You were here and you did observe them, so.
I did.
I mean, you were via Zoom. And our workshop, number 1 is the charter review.
All righty. I'm going to be brief on these so that we can spend a little bit more time on the other workshops, but in your packet I put essentially the last articles of the county charter. We've spent about 9 months just going through this article by article. It's been helpful for me to get to understand things. But I hope it copied and read, but in this first part of what I put in your packet, there's a little note there from Attorney Jim Katsafikas, who works for Perkins Thompson. He spent a lot of time with Maine Municipal, and he offered this advice to Knox County on what the difference is between making an amendment to a charter and a revision to the charter. And what it boils down to is who decides whether it's a revision or an amendment sits with the commissioners. If you want to do an amendment, that can be done by placing an item on a ballot for a referendum in a November ballot. If you want to do a revision, that's when you have to call a charter commission and have the 9 people sworn in and then do that legwork. So the difference is how much of a change would your proposed change be to the charter? And there's some language there on breadth and depth, so on and so forth. And I just say that to kind of give you some background as to what the procedure would look like if you indeed did want to make a change to the charter. And then, of course, Article 7 is all about charter amendments, and they either come from you or they come from a petition of a certain number of voters. So what I plan to do at the next meeting is to give you a summary of 4 or 5 items that are in the charter that are simply unique to Somerset County. No other county has a setup like this. Of the 5 counties that have charters, we're unique in 3 or 4 different ways. I'm not making any recommendations on changing. I would just kind of present that to you as the findings that we've had as we've looked over this document. And then if you did want to consider an amendment or a change to something, we could go through that necessary process. So that's really all I wanted to present to you and let you know that at the next meeting I'll kind of give you the summary notes.
Any questions or concerns? As you recall, last November we had a charter amendment that we proposed to change the Register of Deeds to an appointed, and that did not work well, but we might want to consider an amendment in the sense that if there's a vacancy or absence in a elected position, that could be an appointment, become appointed by the commissioners. Or some sort of language.
As opposed to the municipal caucus?
Right.
We should definitely think about that.
Yeah.
And we can,
And that would not be a revision, that would be...
that'd be an amendment. And because the revision, I think, actually refers to the charter as a whole, because you're revising more so than just one amendment, one piece here and there.
Yeah, even the caucus last time didn't work out that great.
No. And now we have a vacancy, so. but our office manager is doing a superior job, so we're very happy to have her, thank you. So our next discussion in the workshop is to discuss the summer commission meeting schedule, if we wanted to move it to 6 PM, where it's lighter out, and it might invite more of the public to be able to get here, instead of during working hours. Just an idea, we did it last Wednesday, and because you guys were gone, and we needed to have a quorum, and it seemed to work well. We got out, it was still light.
Yeah, well, I know a lot of the department heads that work here, they leave at 4:30, and that would mean they'd have to do a turnaround or stay here or whatever, and
Well, they can zoom in too.
all Zoom in.
And what we did the last time is they submitted a report to Tim, and he
Yeah,
presented it.
Can I offer
Yes, please.
additional, I was batting this around with Scott and Tim. I think our charter requires us to meet once a month. We have a very capable and diligent administrator. Everything's running pretty smoothly. I think we could meet every 3 weeks, and if we met in the evening, I would say meet at 5 rather than 6. But I would think that we could just ask our department heads to submit written reports on a regular basis. We don't have to drag them in here to tell us how many people are in the jail on a particular day. You know, we're kind of wasting their time in a way by having them sit here through a whole meeting to give their little report, which often is not very controversial. And I mean, I just think it's kind of an interesting thought experiment to try to figure out how often we have to meet to get our business done. And
I think the 2
it's
weeks,
like every 3 weeks or once a month.
I think the 2 weeks is predicate on our warrants.
Well, most people
and our
are
payroll.
waiting 30 days to get paid. That's not unusual. If it was 3 weeks, it would be well under 30 days. I'm just throwing it out. I'm not
Yeah,
on the hill, as they say, but I think it's interesting to think about this.
No, that's good food for thought and further discussion. Any other comments, Joel?
So myself, even though it doesn't happen very often, having the department heads here to ask questions or to sort of flesh out something that it might be in their report, but either I'm not understanding, or there might be some more information that I like the idea of having the department heads here when we can meet.
I'd echo that in the fact that, I know we've got longer days, but that leaves us the opportunity to do still more things that we get out of here on longer days. And my schedule would be, make it a little bit conflictual because of obligations I have with my adult disabled son from like 5 on.
Yeah.
So for me, it would be a little more difficult to maneuver the situation.
Well, I would,
That's fine.
if we decided we didn't want to go to 6 and kept it at 3, I mean, there are times in the year where we meet every 3 weeks, when there's 5 Wednesdays in the month, so I would ask
yeah,
them to
yeah,
just
I see.
think about the idea of just meeting every 3 weeks at the same time, and the department heads could then appear in their customary fashion, but they wouldn't have to be here every week. So, something like that.
We can kick that around, and the department heads can mull that over as well.
do we still have to have someone sign the warrants every 2 weeks?
If you meet on a third week, we typically just keep the warrant schedule the same as the commissioners, right? So if there's a 3-week gap between, it would be a 3-week gap, so, yeah. Most of our vendors understand that they're getting paid by essentially a municipal government, so, with a warrant system.
Okay, great. Something to consider. And our next workshop item is discuss status of paying for maintenance of camp roads in Mayfield.
Dave's gonna address this.
Yep. Started out when we had the TIP, it started close to 10 years ago. We were involved with the campground associations on Mayfield Pond and Otter Pond, and another association on Kingsbury Pond. And through communications, they had a bunch of requests, including like paying for spring lines being run down from the mountain so they could all get water and things like that. We didn't do any of that. We did agree at the time that we would plow their roads for them and we would do some road maintenance. We gave them some money towards road maintenance. And we did it out of TIF funds at that time because those roads had not gone through the full approval that the rest of the TIF had done. We were going to switch them over to community benefit, and I think we did at the time. So once community benefit started, which was the year after the TIF, we moved those expenses over to community benefit, and they were coming out of that. And now, after last year, when we had our initial discussion, we took those expenses out of community benefit and moved them over to TIF because we got the final approval on the TIF package. So those roads were now approved part of our TIF district. But the question is, that you folks had, it was a year ago, May 10th meeting, is should we continue doing this? Or should we, instead of doing 100%, maybe split it 50-50 between the clubs and ourselves, if that was a choice. I did receive an estimate on road work that the Kingsbury Camp Owners Association wanted to do. They were looking at about $4,500 worth of road upgrades, maintenance. You know, they also suffered some damage, not major damage, but some minor damage from all the storms and the rain we've had in the past year. So they've asked if we were going to continue this, if that would be approved by the commissioners. And the snow plowing, they talked to the contractor ahead of time, and he's keeping the same price for Kingsbury Association. That was $6,000 last year, and it will be for next year. So if we do 100%, then we'll be giving them $6,000, reimbursing them for the cost of the plowing. If we cut that in half, there's a question if they will bother to plow the roads or not. They pay a fee in as being a Camp Owners Association member, but the fee is pretty much earmarked towards road maintenance, not snow plowing. So whether they keep plowing or not may depend on a vote between their association. So if we pay it all, then yeah, they'll have their roads plowed. If we either pay 50% or don't pay anything, then they probably won't. But that's not written in stone. It's up to them to make those decisions. But I'm here basically to find out what your feelings. Do you want to end the program? Do you want to maybe split it 50-50? You know, that's up to the commissioners.
What's the cost now?
Plowing costs for next winter will be $6,000 for the Kingsbury Pond Camp Owners Association. And for the Mayfield, I don't have a number for them yet, but last year it was $1,600, so it's going to be $1,600 to $2,000, somewhere in that ballpark. It's a smaller section of roads.
What was that 4,500 number that you talked
That
about?
was for road maintenance. They want to get in there, maybe replace a culvert or two, add some gravel in some low spots.
Okay, so this is above and beyond what we covered last year?
Yeah, last year.
So
I think
they looking to add what we did last year in this together and then plus the 6,000 plow roads?
No, last year, we paid last year. Last year was paid for. So we're looking at this year. So everything that's been done, we've already covered. So from this point forward, they want to do some road maintenance, that's $4,500. And they would pay their contractor, then we would reimburse them that expense. I haven't heard from the Otter Pond and Mayfield Pond Association yet. But the snow plowing is pretty much consistent, $6,000 for next year if we approve it. And it should be between $1,600 and $2,000 for the Mayfield. We just haven't heard from them. Yes, John?
So how many actual roads are being serviced by this program?
The Mayfield Pond, Otter Pond, there's only like maybe a mile combined. Their road is pretty short. They've got a lot of little side branches off it going to ants here and there.
So these numbers, this covers all of the roads? not-
Yes, yeah, all the association roads. And for Kingsbury Pond, they've got 3 long roads that go in from Route 16, get to the pond, and then they have some side roads that split where all the
We don't
camps.
get over to Piscataquis County.
No, no.
So, there are a lot of other camp roads, I assume, in Somerset County in the UT, are there not?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So the justification for this was because
Basically,
it's close to the towers?
Yeah, it was the wind tower location. They were there. The commissioners at that time voted against the wind tower project, thinking that it would kill the project. It didn't kill the project. They met all the requirements of the state through other means, and we were left going like, well, they're coming in, how can they benefit us? So we did a tip, and we got, money from the tip, and we had a community benefit agreement also.
Well, I understand how that works, I guess my concern is, it's not a lot of money, I mean, we have the money,
No.
but I just don't understand how we single out this particular number of typically well-heeled camp owners for a public benefit when there are many other camps, and I assume on Moosehead Lake and everywhere else between here and East Overshoe. But we don't give them any money at all, so
No.
how do we justify that? I'm kind of.
At the time, it was location. It was pretty much strictly location. There was so much resistance to start with, and then if they're coming in anyway, what can the benefit be? And a lot of organizations got a lot of money, including the ATV groups in the area, the Moose Valley Riders, the mountain bikers. I know you like to bike. The mountain biking club got a grant. They got money also. So that's how Blue Sky West, the company that put up the towers, got a grant.
Yeah, I understand.
So they met all that, and there wasn't anything left of the camp owners, because they were against it to start with, so they never did get any money from Blue Sky West. So we did, so I think we were feeling obligated and willing to help them out with a few things they needed. The roads, to start with, required major upgrades. You couldn't get an ambulance for a lot of these camps. They're pretty much sneaking in between the trees. You can get in with your pickup, but a full-size ambulance.
But that's true for many other camp roads.
Yes, yeah. But at the time, we wanted to upgrade, so we upgraded the roads, so they were all done. And that cost a lot of money up front. Now we're doing more maintenance projects, so they're small amounts than they used to be.
Okay.
So I guess I'm of the mind, I'm not comfortable with this 100% for the plowing.
No.
If there's a sense that if the taxes that could be used in the rest of the UT aren't paying for 100% of plowing the road, then the road doesn't get plowed.
No.
It doesn't seem very fair to me. If they're, and I'm not recommending an exact number, but let's just, and maybe it's a, weaning off the public dole here is, let's say, we cover 4,000 if they're willing to cover 2,000. If they're not willing to cover 2,000 to plow the road, then why are we gonna spend 6,000 of tax money to do what they're not willing to do,
Yeah.
just pitch in something?
Until this point, and I just spoke with him last week, when I was telling him it may cut down to like a 50-50 split, he wasn't sure they would plow the roads if the Camper Association had to come up with $3,000. Because as I said, what they pay for dues is for road maintenance, not for snow plowing. So they would have to then either change their structures or increase their dues one way or another. So they may be reluctant to do that, but nothing's written in stone there.
Don't we have a problem finding snow plowers up there as well?
They have someone that comes in, they've had them for years, at least since we've been helping pay for it.
Yeah.
Paying for it. Yeah, they do have someone that comes in, and I think he does a lot of their road work also.
How many actual camp owners are we benefiting in this unusual way?
Probably 40 to 50. Most of everybody on those 3 ponds, which Kingsbury, the larger pond, only have the Somerset part of it.
And they have to apparently drive on Route 16 from time to time and see the towers and
Oh, yeah,
the
they
trucks that go by. and-
can't get there without Route 16.
So all the rest of us that drive up and down 201 and 151 and other roads in Maine that have to look at the towers, do we apply for a benefit there?
I think it's less driving on Route 16.
Yeah.
But when you're out on the boat on the lake, then you're stuck seeing the top.
Yeah. And how long have these people had this unusual benefit?
It's been, I think, 8 years now we've been doing it.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty much something we picked up right off the bat. We did it first through community benefit, and then we switched over to TIP. So I don't know if you wanted to make any decisions today, or...
I don't think we'll make a decision today, but we could put it on the agenda for next
Okay.
meeting.
When does the next payment typically go out?
Well, they won't do anything until they hear from us. The road work, they would probably get started, that 4,500, they would probably get started on that next month, but they'll wait until we respond to them. And all the snow plowing, well, the snow plowing for Mayfield North Pond, I haven't received their bill yet.
So this is not contingent on the UT budget? It's
No, no, there's no UT funds involved, it's
Gotcha.
strictly TIP.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so, TIF for community benefit monies that we're talking about.
Now it's all TIP.
Now it's gone back to TIF.
Only $150 per camp.
Yeah,
Any other questions?
no, we might as well,
Okay. We'll have it on the next agenda.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. And now it's time to review the matching grant recommendations. And I think there are people here who are representing some of these, the organizations who have submitted grant, applications. And would the board be happy to have them speak when the time comes? Should they feel like it?
I have no objection.
I mean, we have our public comment, which would allow them to reserve time to speak on an upcoming agenda item, but this item is before that, so I would say that, yes, we could consider this a reservation in that respect. So, and I don't hear any objections going forward now anyway. Okay, so the first grant is the Norwalk Fire Department request for funds to go toward the purchase and equipment of a side-by-side to provide fire and rescue services along the newly opened rail trail. The committee compared this request to the previous request from St. Albans, fall of 2023, to pay for equipment involved in the development of a rescue program. The Norwalk request was much smaller in scope with a narrow impact on the community. The consensus of the committee was that this project would most likely move forward with or without the county funds, and did not recommend funding. I myself am dismayed by this, and I think that they should receive funding. It's not only, it may look like a narrow impact on the community, but it actually has some great ripple effects to other communities and other services as well. And if there's a member from the fire department or the town of Norwalk that wishes to speak to that. This is Chief Pinio.
Yes, thank you. My name is Todd Pinio, Fire Chief in Norwalk. Thanks for having me and for considering our application. We're trying to move forward with a side-by-side project, just as the application states. I'm not sure how much of the application you've seen, so at a very high level, it's a side-by-side with a trailer to get it to where it needs to be, and it's a firefighting rescue combination skid in the back. And this is not the typical side-by-side that you or I would own to take the wife on a Sunday drive. This is, it hauls 1,000-pound payload, right, because you're filling it up with water or a patient, so there's quite a number of specifications for this machine that you wouldn't typically see at your house or mine. And so we're trying to create, it's been a long time on our project list of priorities, It's been there for a long time. What's making it move up now is the opening of the southern branch of the Kennebec Valley Trail. And that puts a lot more people than typically reside in Orange Walk and Mercer in our town and other towns, including Fairfield, Madison, Anson. And it puts them in places where we've never been able to go, right? So we've always wanted this, but this opening of the trail has kind of moved our project forward in time to now. And we largely, the capital funds that we're able to raise through town meeting get dedicated to large fire truck purchases. And anybody who's bought a fire truck lately, if you get one for $500,000, you're doing well. Right? And we do buy in that neighborhood, not $1 million, but $500,000. But that's where our capital reserves go. So when smaller capital projects like this come along, we're always out there looking for funding sources. And this community benefit program was one of them. We're trying to move forward on that now because of the pending opening of that trail any day now. And so, be glad to answer any questions. I'd like to add 10% of our calls for service are outside of our normal coverage area, which is Orange Walk and Mercer. And that might surprise you and say, wow, but mutual aid, so we have a Somerset County mutual aid agreement with all fire departments in Somerset County. We're in Madison a lot, we're in Fairfield a lot, we're in Skowhegan the most. And frankly, Skowhegan comes to us the most. We're probably 1A, 1B, if you will. But all these other towns, we've been to Harmony, we have people in Jackman the other day for the eclipse. So we work with all the other towns in the county.
So a question in regard to, like, you talked about what it would be equipped with and how it would be equipped. Are you talking the ability, I mean, is there a tank for water storage on this for?
70 gallons of water,
Okay.
which, you know, if you do the quick math, that's pretty heavy. Yeah.
So my other question is, in terms of the locations where you use this and the opening of this, is it fully equipped for rescue type
Yes.
situations where medical response, first response services could be attended to those individuals that are on the trail?
Yes, and I have some pictures I'd be glad to share with you, but the skid that we're targeting is a combination firefighting and rescue skid. So the way that it's designed is a tank with a pump and then an area for strapping down a Stokes basket and a patient, right, to get them out. And, you know, I'd like to emphasize, we moved this forward to now because of the opening of the trail. But we're an extremely rural area, Orange Walk, Mercer, and all the other towns pretty much in the county, and we go to all of them that are close by. And so there's the rail trail brought the timing forward, it's still in need of the department.
John?
I noticed the total project amount is $75,000. Where's the rest of the money coming from?
Coming from?
What are the other funding sources?
Funding sources, thank you. So, 50,000 was left to us. This is in the application, and I don't think you get an opportunity to read those, but 50,000 was a bequeath from Alice Emery, longtime Norwich Walk resident. She left money to lots of causes, and so 50,000 straight from her will. The remaining 10 I've cajoled out of Richard and the selectmen. They found locations, and so that leaves the 15 that we were asking from the county.
And the maintenance and ongoing operation of this unit will...
Yeah, and that's an application as well. So, as is typical for us and others, getting the equipment is the hard part. Maintaining it isn't so bad. And, you know, there's probably no other group of people in this county that donate time, effort, their own expense, than the fire services, and I want to include all the towns, right? You're coming in after hours, and you're often not getting paid, you're in on the weekends, it's a rainy day, I can't do this, I'll do that. And they're at the fire station fixing it. We have money enough in our budget to maintain the equipment that we have, and And of course, we are one of the lucky ones, and we have 2 full-time firefighters now. And so, we have that Monday through Friday, 7:30 to 4:30 coverage of people to change oil and things like that.
First, Chief, thanks for responding to the eclipse and bringing your petroleum-based generator to get those Teslas and Priuses off the road. I really appreciate that. Was that you? No, that was somebody else, sorry. So you mentioned the 10% of calls are out of your region. Is that all your calls, or is that the calls that apply to this what you would use as
All calls.
Okay.
All calls. And I don't want to mislead you. A majority of the time when we're leaving Norwich or Mercer, it's for a bigger fire.
Yeah,
Absolutely. But do we get called to bring our 2002 side-by-side, and it's not side-by-side, a little quad, it's a Polaris, back in 2002, that's all they had, right?
Yeah.
Do we get called to bring that to other towns? Yes, we do. In any given year, that's going to be a higher or lower number, but 10% of total calls. And I rounded up, so it's 29 out of 306 calls last year.
So in most cases, this implement's gonna be used more on rescue for four-wheeler accidents, that sort of thing, because of the trails. I'm guessing, and I would have loved this 30 years ago, but refilling Indian tanks in a fire, things like that. So
Absolutely.
that's mostly what this would be used for.
Yes, in fact, we got recently from Maine Forestry Grant, we got some brand new Indian packs. That's not the name anymore, but that's how we know them, right? And you can fill
Probably
those.
not a metal can hanging off of 2 straps on your back.
It's not that much different. So yeah, filling those up, it's got a pump, right? It's also got hard suction, so you can back the thing right down into a stream and pump it out of a stream or a lake or something.
It does have that function?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And tracks, right? So it's a 12-month operation. We don't have the luxury of only being able to go, a few months of the year.
So just visualizing like a typical event, if there is such a thing. So if somebody called 911 because they had a ATV accident on the rail trail between Madison and Norwich Walk, would you trailer this thing up there, or does it fit on the bridge, or do you just, how do you?
All options are on the table, so that's the beauty of the project as we've conceived it. So along with the side-by-side, and this is the reason the budget is $75,000, right? Along with the side-by-side is $18,000 or $19,000 worth of an enclosed trailer. Because we might have to take that to Solon or Fairfield, right? And it could take you forever to get there. But there are also the opportunity to back right out of the fire station and go from there with no trailer, right? Because we're such close proximity to the rail trail. So we have all options, and we're in a pretty unique situation for this. We have 3 or 4, 5 areas in town where we can access the rail trail from the public road. So down near the Fairfield town line, in town, there's several locations right in town, and then up on the Father Law Road, and then of course way up at the intersection, just over the Madison line, plenty of places to access the trail with a trailer. So if this accident was in Solon, obviously, no brainer, right? You're gonna trailer up to it. If it's halfway to Madison, you got some choices to make.
But the idea is that we're going places where regular vehicles can't go. That's the idea.
Correct. Regular vehicles can't go, especially several months of the year. Right, so this has tracks. Tires for the summer and tracks for the 1.5 seasons. That wasn't work.
Question just a little bit above and beyond what I asked before in terms of the medical rescue. Has there been any talk with agencies and the townships in terms of not just medical rescue, but being involved in using that equipment for search and rescue? Like in situations where somebody's lost or?
Well, I can't say we've had any recent discussions about that, no, but we have always been called and pitched in for that type of activity when asked.
But that could be utilized for that type of thing?
Yes, we think of the typical use for this as And it's twofold. One is to put out a fire that you can't get a fire truck to. And then two is to rescue somebody who is having their worst day, right? But there are other things, absolutely. I can envision, and have discussions with Maine Forestry about this, just getting their warden from point A to point B, right? And assisting them in that way. Or could be a sheriff, or a deputy, that needs to get from point A to point B.
Yeah, I would definitely support that. I can see that the collaboration that we have and moving forward, the good asset that will be available.
Thank you.
Well, I'll say this, I think Tim maybe agrees with me on this, is I think, because I was on the committee and, it's a pretty successful program so far, and we have lots of money. That's just a funny thing to say in this day and age, but we have a ton of money. So why should we be cheap? And it's a worthy program, and hearing you and thinking it over, I'm fully supportive of it. I think what we were concerned about as a committee is that a time is going to come as this program develops, where the number of applicants is going to be, and requests is going to exceed the amount that we have in the well. And then, as a committee and as a commission, we're going to have to try to figure out some standards and criteria, because at some point, we're going to have to trim and say no and so forth. So maybe this was our, an effort at that, thinking, well, is there alternative funding available, blah, 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 blah. But as I just said, we got plenty of money, as far as I know. Am I right on this, Tim?
Well, I wouldn't keep saying it.
It's a public money, it's a community-based program, and I would encourage more people to take advantage of it. But that's, I think, why we said no as a committee before, is just trying to find a way of this working out.
If I could just add on to that. So, as I said in my summary, you've probably had a chance to look at it. It was Christian, myself, Commissioner Alsop, Elaine Allos from Solon, Christy LeBlanc from Madison, Michelle Dembo from St. Albans. So we try to have a wide, representation from the county. And so you've got some people in there that have municipal experience. And I think for some of the committee, when they saw that 2/3 of the project was paid for by an endowment or a gift, then that kind of took the pressure off of, could this be done without county funding? And so the consensus of the group was, it sure seems like they've got most of the money already that they need to start this project. So it's going to go forward whether the county gives $15,000 or $5,000 or $10,000 to it. So that's kind of where the thinking was. But I appreciate what you.
I understand that, and I read two things out of this paragraph that I guess you authored. But the impact to the community, and I'm here to tell you that 10% of our calls are all over Somerset County. We name another organization besides the fire service that has a county-wide mutual aid agreement. We go anywhere in the county that we're asked to go, right? And so I read that about community benefit, and I read the second thing about most likely to move forward without. It's true that this project has been on our list for a long time.
Yeah.
And a need for a long time. As I said, we currently have a 2002. The issue of why we moved it forward to 2024 and are out there now is the opening of the trail. And I don't want to mislead anybody. The trail is big and it's important, but there's a lot of activity. We go to every summer, we go to ATV accidents, every winter we go to something like that have nothing to do with that trail, right? All over.
So, from my perspective, I believe it's worth, I'm not in favor of the full 15,000, but I believe that, I would support some other number.
I agree with you.
I think looking at.
Especially use it with the sheriff's department, and there's a lot of places that he's gone that he needed it. Well,
We've worked very closely with Sheriff Lancaster, we have no issues saying, here's the key, bring it back when you're done. Absolutely no issue.
I can tell you that going on file, we've had, just recently, a standoff Norwood Fiber to help, no complaints. I just see, especially with the trail opening up, this is an important endeavor because we are going to be, if not if, it's going to be when.
Yeah, and that's why I was so dismayed at the total rejection of the application. I knew the ripple effect, the trail opening up, and the community benefit that it will occur for happiness. I think it's extremely important that we fund it.
I think if we look at public safety where it is, and especially in terms of medical rescue services, response times are terrible. Anything that comes to the county to assist that needs to come to the county and assist that, is my absolute thought. And I'm in favor of funding the full 15.
Do we take action on this?
No, there's nothing, this will be next,
This goes in the back.
on our agenda next time. This is our workshop.
Do we need to pick a number to, or we'll just decide that?
We can decide that, we can think about it, decide it. I'm in league with Scott, the whole 15, but,
Yeah, Joel said partial and he said all, so, yeah.
so we'll bring that up when we make our final decision in 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, actually. This is one of your 3 weeks.
We did program court.
Chief, when do you anticipate that trail opening?
Well, that probably is a question for the town manager. I think for all intents and purposes, open now, except for the open sign, I think.
So, the trail was never closed to non-motorized. Right now, the only thing that's restricted on the trail are motorized, and the motorized will be open for Memorial Day weekend. We're waiting on a Bingham large landholder to free up.
How long does it take you, if you order, if the commissioner's granted, how long does it take you to get that order?
Oh, I have the side-by-side on order, as we talked about. We have some of the money already, right? Side-by-side's on order and should be here the 23rd. So, which is a weekish away. Yeah.
So essentially, doing the math, this grant would help pay for the trail.
Yeah, and this firefighting rescue skid that goes in the back, that's a $10,000 item right there.
Gotcha.
Thanks. Anything else for me?
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you. Do you need that?
Any further questions on 24-1? Going on to 24-2, Moose Alley ATV Riders. The club is fundraising for a building to be set on Route 201 in Bingham, near the trailhead near 201 Power Sports. The building will serve as a year-round hub for riders and snowmobilers. Total project cost is estimated at $132,000. The club is considered to be well-organized and serves several towns: Solon, Anson, Emden, Bingham, and several unorganized territories. The club also plans to ask for funds from TIF for the UT service it provides. Consensus of the committee was that this was a worthwhile project and recommends full funding at $15,000. Any questions or comments? Is there anybody from Moose Alley ATV Riders who wishes to speak?
Question about the TIF piece. Is that where we can use TIF money, where we have someone in Bingham that are not unoccupied here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they also do UTs.
Okay.
We couldn't fund it 100% through TIF, because they do the town, but we can add money because they do operate in the UTs.
So who's on the committee in here? You, Christian?
Me, Elaine Allos from Sullivan, Michelle Dembo from St. Albans, Christy LeBlanc from Madison, and Stephanie Thibodeau from Fairfield.
Three of you, the only ones that are.
Right.
Christian, why did you support this 100%?
I didn't vote because I was an applicant this round.
Oh, okay.
So I provided some information on it. I think out of the clubs I've worked with, this is probably one of the better organized ones for sure. They've had some hiccups in the last couple of years with private landowners, pretty much doing everything they can to try to restrict access, and Richard maybe you were alluding to that a little bit. The recent storms have really just destroyed all of our trail systems. So I'm not sure if they're actually putting this on hold now or not. I know they're pivoting to trail maintenance because they have a gap of about 120,000 they need.
Did I speak to that?
Yeah, and Dave and I were on email actually just this afternoon on it.
Yeah, I've got copies of that letter, I was gonna give them to Tim. They submitted a letter, they put it out basically to everybody they could think of to contact. The trail system took such a beating. We know that our county roads took a beating, and we're working with FEMA to get some things done. I know the state is working with FEMA to try to get the snowmobile trails back up and fixed. But in this case, they're looking at upwards of $250,000 to get all of their trails repaired and upgrading where they need, new culverts and larger culverts and things like that. The letter I can make available to the commissioners and to Tim. I made 3 copies, not for myself and Tim, and one that we can get copies, so you all can have copies of that if you'd like. But it does make me question, we haven't done anything towards TIF yet on funding the clubhouse. I want to talk with Christian to see if he personally, through SEDC, was going to fund anything towards that. And I knew the $15,000 was in this from community benefit. I didn't know other sources of funding, so they didn't ask for a specific amount through TIF. So I was kind of waiting until I could talk to some other people and get an idea of how much money they needed. It may be that the trail system needs money more from the TIF than this clubhouse that they're discussing. It's probably a meeting you'll need to have with the club and determine their priorities.
Well, when we had this in front of the committee, we didn't talk anything about fixing the trails. This was.
No, this was sent out, I think, today.
I did see an email, but I didn't have a chance to read it.
We had some I mean.
So I guess, are they withdrawing this grant?
I don't know if they're going to withdraw or not. Here's 2 you can pass around. We can make copies if you'd like.
Send it over there.
Well, our feeling, just to answer your question, our feeling was that this was basically a boon to the snowmobile and ATV community out there, which is quite a big business out there.
Yes.
And I was a little nervous that this would be an adjunct of a private business sort of in their parking lot, but I was assured that this was a standalone kind of clubhouse that's going to be available for anybody that shows up, including cyclists, hikers, and the Horseshoe Road Inn. So.
Yeah, it's definitely a central location. And we also discussed, this community benefit fund coming from really directly that area, so we don't necessarily score those heavier. But, for me personally, something in that proximity is that wind farm, I think they need to take a harder look at it.
And my thoughts to add to that were, it was a year-round. It was both ATVs and snowmobiles, so they had a year-round, or at least 10 months out of the year impact. I would recommend, since we don't have anyone here from Moose Alley, that you allow maybe Dave and I to get in touch with them prior to the next meeting and to see if they want to postpone this application to another time, or if they want to continue forward with this application.
I would support that. So I think one of the obvious questions is going to be, is the money that they were going to use towards the clubhouse, are they now going to have to use it? So it's not going to go anywhere, even if we were to award them 15 grand.
Correct. That's what we need to find out.
Yeah, we could go ahead. Well, the thing about awarding the 15 grand now is that it might expire on them. So it'd be good to have that conversation with them to see we can get a better foothold on it by the next meeting. 24-3, Friends of the LC Bates Museum. This is a small request to help funding a marketing campaign to draw more attention to the museum. Consensus of the committee was to fully fund the request of $2,066. So, they're just going to market more for the museum. The Friends of the LC Bates Museum is a standalone nonprofit corporation. that raises and disperses funds for the L.C. Bates Museum in conjunction with Goodwill Hinckley, because Goodwill Hinckley is the owner of the museum. That's that. Any questions or concerns?
I would just for future reference, this is not something that I would support. I don't
Have you
feel.
ever been there?
What's that?
Have you ever been there?
Doesn't matter. I have this focus on the things that I feel would, like the fire service or
Yeah.
some of those sorts of things. Those, to me, need to be a priority. Now, we have a lot of money apparently, but we don't have an unlimited supply of money. I would hate to go outside, and I'm happy to be outvoted, right? But I would not feel comfortable going outside of that. And then 2 years down the road, now we've spent all the big money that we have, and not be able to fund something that actually can save somebody's life. That's just how I am.
Well, I agree with you looking down the road. A time will come when we have to be more particular about how we spread the money around and have better criteria. I think our committee would seem like a very good bang for the buck. It's very tightly run. It's a sort of a cultural, I wouldn't call it a mecca, but it is one of those 1,000 points of light we have in the community that some people benefit from, and it's very well run. It's been there for a while. This seemed like a good deal. And so that's what I'm supporting.
I haven't heard 1,000 points of light used in a long time. That's pretty good.
Well, that worked. That's good. Okay.
Okay, 24-4, unless there's any other discussion on Bates? 24-4, Maine Laboratories LLC, this small business startup in Norwood provides the only PFAS testing in Maine. All other testing goes to Massachusetts. They are raising funds to purchase $327,000 in equipment to expand their business. They're borrowing $115,000 and have $200,000 in grants to go forward, to go toward the purchase. The committee was split over funding for a for-profit business, but they did agree it was important. Provided a need to service the community. Recommended partial funding of $5,000. Any questions or concerns?
I'm here if anybody has any questions. I don't know if you want me to come up and speak.
You can, well, you come up and speak up to it.
Yeah.
Well, we're all here, and you're here, and thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you for the consideration and the time. So I am the CEO of Maine Laboratories in Norwood. It's a small family-owned business, so it's my husband and myself. He's the analytical chemist and our chief science officer, and then I'm the business side of the business and running it day to day, and also the one that gets nominated to come and speak to you. Lovely folks as a scientist, he would do this. We're brand new. We opened, or we're accredited in February of 2023, and we specialize in PFAS testing. We chose Central Maine. We love Central Maine. My husband graduated from Skowhegan Area High School. I grew up in Belmont on Route 3 on a small farm, but obviously Norwood is really close to the central area of Maine that's being affected with PFAS contamination. So one of the ways that we're very different from our competitors is that we set up our model to work with homeowners directly. It's very hard if you're trying to get a PFAS test from a commercial lab. It's very difficult to do, and you really don't have any resources to ask like very basic questions of like, how would you even take the sample, or what does this mean? How do I read my report? And those are all things that we take very seriously, and so I talk to customers every day and help them through the process so they can get the data that they need in understanding if they should remediate it all. So we're bootstrapping it, very much so. And one of the things that we think about is making sure the business is sustainable. And so we're trying not to take on, we've already taken on a lot of debt, obviously, to open. It's a high cost business to get into. And so we're trying to avoid, as much as we can to kind of lower that so that we can be a sustainable business. We have one LCMS on site. It does cost about $330,000 for each one. This would be a second piece of equipment. The reason it benefits us to have a number 2 LCMS is when we're trying to court customers, like businesses, PFAS remediation treatment customers, if there's like landfills who want to have their leachate tested. We're taken more seriously if we have system redundancy on site. So this helps us, our credibility as a lab and being able to bring in business. The benefit to Norwich Walk, and I don't know if Richard, I've said this to you or not, but like I really want to be one of the major employers in the city and in the county. We have very good science-based jobs with great benefits. We just hired our 3rd lab tech and she started on Monday. And if we had 2 LCMSs on site and we're able to get the additional business, I mean, we easily could have 10 to 15 lab techs that understand the science behind PFAS and are able to work this equipment and really be able to support extra volume. So this grant request is definitely about making sure that we're sustainable and can be a long-term business in the county. I think in the application I talked about the more employees we have, the more people come into Norwich Walk, the more people that are go to the businesses in Norwich Walk, like Six Penny Jug, or, even the Dunkin' Donuts or the gas station. Like, the more people we have spending money in town and in the county, the better. We also do attract customers who come to pick up, PFAS test kits and drop them off, so we do help with some of that traffic as well already.
Thank you very much. Any questions, concerns?
Are the doors, are you open for business now?
Yeah, we've been open for business since February 2023.
Oh, okay.
You can stop in any time. We'd love to give you a tour. We'd love to show folks what we're doing.
So the 15,000 would be just to solidify the business?
It's for the LCMS cost specifically. So I'm working on, cobbling together the funding to order the second LCMS.
And LCMS is that a degree or?
It is the primary piece of analysis equipment to help us identify the PFAS compounds down to the very, very low level that's required for the state and the EPA. We have to measure down to 2 parts per trillion. And that's, people kind of say that's 2 grains of salt in an Olympic-sized swimming pool is what we're measuring for. It's very hard to do, and it takes very specialized equipment. And so the jobs that we have, we're training people, taking folks from entry level, like our new hire that started Monday. She graduated in 2023. She hasn't worked in a lab before, and we're bringing her in and doing on-the-job training so that she can handle the sample prep and then eventually get onto the LCMS and do that analysis too. So we're working very hard to make our lab, just have that positive impact in the community with science-based jobs in Central Maine that don't really, there's not a lot of those that exist.
Any further? No. Thank you. Christian.
I just want to say too, this is the first PFAS lab in Maine, and prior to this, I think it was Massachusetts was the closest one.
Yeah.
And so, some of the community members look at it, as a for-profit business, yes, but there won't be any favoritism of this PFAS lab versus another one, right? So we had another situation like that come up in the review, and they with other applicants. So, being able to test your well, test the meat from your hunt locally is pretty critical. So I just wanted to reiterate that.
And locally.
Yep.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you for the consideration.
Very welcome, thank you.
Can I make a procedural observation?
Sure.
Well, I'm on the committee, so is Tim, so is Christian, and Elaine, and others. We actually spent a couple hours going through all this stuff, and we're not saying our judgment is perfect. But it seems to me, if we're going to spend another couple hours at a board meeting doing the same process all over again, something's not working there.
Well, this is also for the public to know what we're doing. This is transparency.
Well, everything we do is subject to public review, but that doesn't mean we have a public hearing on everything.
We're not, it's transparency.
And I'm all for transparency, I'm suggesting is that once the committee does its work and makes its recommendations, maybe Tim could just sort of circulate them among the board, and if people look at them and have particular questions, we could meet and go over those things, but rather than, because I'm having a very strong sense of deja vu here.
Yeah, we
And
did that
I'm kind
back
of
in-
wondering, well, why am I doing this? And micromanagement is a word that comes to mind. I don't know. I mean, we have a committee. What's the committee supposed to do? Nothing?
Send recommendations to the board.
Right, well, I mean, there are certain committees that have structure that send recommendations to the board, and I'm not saying the board can rubber stamp it.
Well, it's not that boring, you know.
Can I finish? No, finish. Well, I just think that we're taking up a lot of people's time here, just reinventing the typewriter on this thing. It doesn't make sense.
Except that it is a public document that is being publicly presented.
Well, everything we do is public. The budget is public. That doesn't answer my question. So why are we doing it twice?
If I could...
Our committee meeting was public, for that matter.
If I could just add a couple comments to this. This is only the second time that the commissioners have gone through this process. It is a little bit different. We refer to it as a pilot program. So I think there's a lot of things we can learn. One of my observations is you bring 7 people together to look at proposals, you got 7 opinions. Now you're adding another 4 or 5 opinions into those. And it was clear to me from that committee that the committee was struggling with for-profit businesses and school districts. That was a concern that was brought up several times. So in that light, I think this is necessary. I think the commissioners need to have this meeting at this time to give future guidance to a committee and maybe to determine whether we need a committee at all. If the commissioners want to be the committee of the reviewing because they control the funds, then we can certainly structure it that way and set up a workshop with additional time to cover it. So I understand your point, but I think we're still in the formation stage of this.
'24-5, East Pond Association. The association owns a small dam on East Pond and is responsible for the maintenance and repairs, as well as providing for boat inspections to mitigate introduction of invasive species. They are asking for funds to go towards the $100,000 plus project. The consensus of the group was to fully fund the $15,000 request specific to dam repairs.
I don't believe there's anybody here to speak to this. I did some follow-up on this one. The repairs are to some rebar that has broken and to put a netting system up to try to deter invasive species in addition to their boat inspections. Having worked with the Lake West Russet Association, I know how important this work is. I was quite fascinated to find that the owner of that dam sold the dam to this association. They didn't sell it to the town of Smithfield, which is very unique. So it's unique that this small nonprofit association owns and operates and maintains this dam. So,
This dam maintains the water level for the pond or lake.
Yeah, the runoff.
East Pond, yeah.
this dam,
I guess is it the inlet or the outlet?
identify this dam. So it's it connects East Pond and North Pond in Smithfield.
It's the thoroughfare there.
Right. And this dam controls 1 foot of the headwater. So it doesn't control all of the headwater, but it is a significant thoroughfare between those 2 ponds.
So was there any discussion on if this dam was not maintained, that water level that it's controlling changes, possible property damage, those sorts of things?
There wasn't the
I mean, it's over and above just not just, but invasive species.
That's correct, because they did mention in the application what communities would be impacted if the dam wasn't there, and also the impact to the property values around those particular ponds if something were to happen to that water level, or the water quality for that matter.
Any other questions or concerns? Uh, 24-6, SAD 12, RSU 82, Jackman Schools. The school district is raising funds to replace bleachers in the gym at Forest Hill School. The full request for $15,000. The committee was split over whether this district should take full responsibility for new bleachers, but did agree that there was some community benefit through recreation programs. Recommended partial funding of $5,000. Any questions? Seeing none. 24/7, Snow Devil Snowmobile Club. Club requested $15,000 towards a $30,000 project to place a new slab under their existing storage facility in St. Albans and to add an additional covered space. The consensus of the committee was that this had a limited public benefit, but recommend partial funding of $5,000 to assist with the new concrete slab. Again, any questions or comments? 24/8, Spinology Chiropractic. Private business seeking $15,000 toward a $35,000 project to create ADA accessibility to the building. Consensus of the committee was that this project did not fit the criteria for community benefit and did not recommend funding.
So I do know there are people here from, that represent Spinology.
I'm the doctor's father, I'm here to represent him because he's working today. He has invested for years on the most technology available for diagnostic. That's where most of his funds go. The building was grandfathered. It's got stairs, of course, and a lot of people can hardly walk when they come in. So they have a hard job going, of course, up and down them. But he also has a nonprofit. Has discounted care for veterans. I don't know if I can answer any more questions, but he asked me to come here to represent.
Was the discounted care presented in the application?
I didn't see any reference to that in the application. And I'll just speak for the committee on this one. While we certainly understood and everybody appreciated the fact, especially people who have been into that building, that it's just not very accessible at all, and it's the building that he is using to try to further his business. This was one of the discussions about benefiting a private business and how much impact countywide would this have. The applicant is borrowing money to finish this project, and so there was the discussion as to, is this something that would go forward, whether or not the county funded it. And to Christian's point that he made earlier, this kind of gets into that sticky wicket of if you start helping one private business, what does that say about the other dozen or so or more chiropractors in Somerset County? So that was some of the stickiness that they had that led them to their decision not to recommend it.
Thank you. 24/9, Mercer Historical Society. Request was for $4,000 to go toward installing a heat pump in their building to aid in heating, cooling, and controlling humidity to extend the life of historical documents. Very similar to the project funded in the fall for the East Madison Historical Society. Committee recommends funding, full funding, request of $4,000. Questions or discussion? 2410, Skills Incorporated, a nonprofit is seeking funds to help provide safety and mobility improvements at 5 group homes in the area. The $15,000 request will go toward a total of $30,000 in materials, and Skills will provide the labor for installation. The consensus of the committee was that this was a worthwhile project and recommends full funding at $15,000.
Just a quick question, where these are group home situations, one of the fundings may have been tried to achieve. I mean, there's situations out there where places like, I'll just slip my mind, but that allow grants for these types of things, especially for group home situations in regarding to where their funding actually comes from. Help for One is a program out there that would support something like this because they're group homes. So I just was curious if they did and tried to go after funds and grants and other situations for their money.
I believe they did. I'm trying to find a reference to that right now, but, so they are putting in $15,000 of their own money, and I can only assume that that's been either raised through grants or other funding sources.
And did we confirm this, all these properties belong to them?
That's right, they're all part of the group
I can
homes.
quite tell from the application
Yeah.
whether they're individual houses that they service.
And did they mention, they're doing these upgrades based on new state mandates, or has this been grandfathered for a while? Any idea?
I believe that what their application said was they are trying to increase the safety and access and mobility at these 5 group houses. They didn't make any mention of state mandates to do so, but everything that they're doing is kind of that ADA type of work is.
So these group home house folks with intellectual and physical disabilities, mostly intellectual autism, but they have impairments sometimes in mobility and ability to get around, so.
Yeah, and my question sort of comes around to, for them to even open those buildings and allow the folks in there, they had to have been to a certain standard, so, and, I mean, it just sounds like, to me, this is going to go over and above requirements, would be is what I'm assuming. I mean, if they're not saying that, hey, we have to make these improvements to qualify, be certified, to allow people to live there, if they're already living there, then I would imagine that they're already to that level, but that's why I guess.
Well, I got the sense from the application, which I don't have in front of me, that there was some significant functional obsolescence involved in these buildings, and they needed to be fixed up in order to maintain minimum standards. I don't know if they were talking about building standards, but just...
Well, they were talking about ADA compliant ramps, replacing tripping hazards.
Yeah, stuff like that.
So I think it was more maintenance, re-leveling and repairing and adjusting an existing ramp. So I would imagine that those ramps in some of those places were existing when they got certified, and now they're in disrepair and need to be brought up to speed.
What are the areas where are these homes located?
Clinton, St. Albans, Palmyra, Shawmut.
Clinton is in Kennebec County.
It is. And they recognize that in their application. They're spending about $1,800 there at Clinton. The lion's share of the money is going to the other properties.
No further comments? 2411 SEDC Tech Lab, Somerset County Development Corporation is renting space at the former Quimby School in Bingham to use as the space to help educate residents on technology, serve as temporary workspace, and provide access to telehealth for residents. Of the $56,000 first-year budget, $12,000 is rent. The remainder is for renovations and equipment. The committee weighed the merits of donating community benefits funds to SEDC and found them to be eligible. After questions regarding how broadband funds were being spent, the committee recommends partial funding of $10,000 to be used for renovations and equipment. Any discussion? Anything to add, Christian?
No, I mean, we have a lot of state broadband grants. A lot of this won't qualify. And I think this, this would be this essentially would just help us get open and launched. As we do that, that's really my focus the next 2 or 3 months, not fundraising for other expenses. Next year on, we should have access to much more broadband funds with looser restrictions, so we essentially wanted to get this up and running. And so, we're having meetings with other agencies on workforce training, stuff like that. We really want to offer this space to other organizations for free, and it's really can be a tech hub out there for sure.
When you say other organizations, what type of organizations?
We've had a couple of brief conversations, Somerset Public Health, telehealth organizations. This other one I just got today, some acronym, I can't remember. The Scaling in Adult Ed is sending a tech worker up there for one-on-one support. We'll be paying their wages for that. And then really just anyone in between. There's targeted populations with that state grant. It's low income, elderly, disabled, unemployed veterans. So, we're trying to get a wide array of people in there. It can be as simple as hop in here, print a resume or a job application, or check the email. We're also conducting digital skills classes, and then we'll have up to classes of up to 10. We have an instructor on site plus on Zoom, so. And then other large meeting spaces, and we have 2 smaller co-working offices too, so. There's nothing like that up there. And again, it's really in the backyard of the whole origin of this type of community benefit funds. And I'm shopping right now. Office chairs are not cheap.
You go down to the state surplus sale and see what they've got. Now, Tim, our next meeting, I have no intention on reading this all over again.
Right.
So when we have our warrant, if it would be Norwalk Fire Department requested 15, committee suggests none. In the warrant, we'll make the decision of how much money we want to, or not, don't want to spend.
Okay.
At that time, the same thing with all these other ones. Moose River Valley requested 15, committee recommends full funding, 15, and so on.
So I'll put those as individual resolutions?
Yeah, and then I think the only one that's really probably going to gain some traction for debate would be the Norwalk Fire Department. So I suppose that will be a standalone, and then probably there'll be a motion to include all the others as one.
Why don't I just identify them all individually, and then if the commissions want to take them in bulk, we can do it that way.
Yeah, that's either way, yeah. But I understand John's point, it does get, it's long-winded, but everybody gets to hear what it is. And if we were voting on it now, that might have made it simpler, but we're not.
Right.
So I want to make it simple for the next time, because I'm not going to read these again.
And the other thing to consider is we all individually have different constituents that we answer to.
Exactly.
And we're spending public money.
Yeah.
So.
And that's what I meant by transparency, so that.
Yeah.
So the workshops are completed, and now we're on to public hearing. There's none. Public comment to allow the members of the public to comment or reserve time to speak on an upcoming agenda item. Is there anybody from the public who wishes to speak or reserve time to speak at this moment? Yes, sir.
I would just ask if we're completely done today on the topic of community benefit. Because if we are, then I can excuse myself. And secondly, I'd like to ask to speak at the next meeting where you are deciding, should there be questions.
Sure, that'll be great. We'll be here. We'll look forward to seeing you.
Thank you so much.
That'll be on June 5th.
June 5th.
Yeah.
3 o'clock.
June 5th.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Rich.
New agenda items, commissioners only. Finance reporting.
Keep it simple and short. We currently have 14 openings countywide. There's status quo to the last meeting. Finance-wise, the forecast for the end of the year changes, still trending. And I think Tim will probably address the grant that we were approved for. Any questions? I did have a typo that I was nice enough to point out. Your labor isn't 276,000 favorable, but a little digit error there, but I'll make sure that's corrected for next time.
Just want to prove on it.
Yeah.
That's right.
And what does the timing mean? There's a number of places where it says timing.
Because the department heads try to do their best on dividing up by month, because for cash flow reasons, they do it by month. Sometimes when they feel an expense is going to incur, it doesn't occur, but in the budget, it shows it. And so on, so if you see a favorable variance, it might be only because of timing.
Oh, yeah.
The budget says it's supposed to happen last month, but it's not going to happen to this month, so there might be a little timing issue and then actually match up.
Gotcha, thank you. Great. Let's see, who do we have? Sheriff.
Patrol did 386 calls for service last week. We have a deputy graduating from the academy on Friday, 18, exclusion of 18 weeks. In the last, since Friday, we've done 2 illegal grow operations, one in Harmony on the South Road, one in Canaan on the Hinkley Road, that culminated in roughly around over 2,000 plants and 45 pounds of processed marijuana.
John, is that a question?
Yeah, do you ever find evidence of like guns or that kind of thing associated with these big marijuana busts, or is it just a lot of pot and usually no people?
So there was nobody on the, no one home on the Canaan case that we did Monday, Tuesday, but today detectives found the owner of the home, and we did make an arrest. So just because someone is not home does not mean that there's still an ongoing investigation associated with that. As far as guns, so far, there has been no firearms involved.
I'm just curious, really, but I guess it impacts our county, but are the people that are running or are watering plants or tending them or whatever they do, are they living there, or they just come by from time to time to check up on them to avoid the possibility of arrest or some such thing?
So,
What's
not
the
really.
MO?
Yeah, so offline, I'll be more than happy to have that conversation with you in a public meeting. I don't want to give what we know that is transpiring.
Sure, I just don't want to read the papers and always seems like there's no one around. So.
Yeah, there's we've been very aggressive in this county, and there have been some operational changes on their part.
Thanks.
So this particular person that you did find today, do you have any idea, were they driving a gray minivan? Because that's usually, well, it's the gray minivan that shows up at the other Chinese weed house up on Main Street, and is also seen after Strickland Road on occasion too.
You can't say
I mean, I didn't know about this one, there's 3 others in Canaan alone that I personally know of.
We're aware of them. We're working as rapidly as we can. We did seize a 2018 silver Dodge Caravan today.
I tried to call, the last snowstorm, I tried to call you and let you know that they were shoveling off the driveway in Main Street, just in case you wanted to catch them all.
Well, we didn't catch them at home, but we did.
Good job, good job. So with that, Sheriff, could you provide us with a breakdown on the cost to Somerset County on these, the amount of man hours that you're having to spend to deal with these, probably ought to be federal law enforcement involved in this stuff, or at least state. Could you provide us with some sort of breakdown in the next meeting on, you know, what you feel these are costing the taxpayers in Somerset County?
Yes, sir, I will.
I would greatly appreciate that.
Sheriff, I had another question, which actually I saw in the finance report, but I was sort of curious about our inmate boarding situation, because it says here that we're boarding some, I don't know where I read it, we're boarding some Oxford people, but it didn't look like we're boarding any Penobscot people anymore.
So we do, part of the budget process is that we are budgeted to house 15 Penobscot. There is conversation going on right now. It is connected to our MAT treatment, and we're going to be revisiting that in the near future. We do sublocate inside, and it's a very expensive shot. Some of these some of our counties that we board with are not eager to pay that cost, so they're trying to find other housing accommodations. So that's caused us to have a discussion internally, and something's going to change, I predict, in the near future.
In a good or bad way?
Well, I mean, it depends on what perspective you're looking at.
No,
We have to look after what's in the best interest of the taxpayers in Somerset County, and so revenue loss causes me great concern, and that's going to be part of possibly a new way going forward.
So the other counties are balking at subsidizing their end of the sublocate program for their inmates, is that?
Short answer, yes.
Yeah. And this is something we didn't foresee when we were talking about this.
Well, I mean, when we first started this pilot program, and this is what this sublocate the state was, that's what we partnered with, right? They have a huge opiate fund that they're trying to distribute, and we proved it to be very, and you all were very gracious to use 100,000 to augment that program. The shots, when we were giving them to everyone, runs about $100,000 a month. So we were getting from the state around $1 million for this pilot program. Because of, I think, some of the many external disciplines looking for that money and what the priorities of the state are, their willingness to continue to supplement that is starting to reduce, which caused us to look at who's going to be paying for what. And then that we had originally sent out that look, if we have your inmate, this is our program and this is their cost. Well, as a result of that, and counties and even feds unwilling or not embracing that mat treatment. In part, I think in part mostly because of the cost, they're not sending us orders. So then again, that is going to move towards the internal conversation. We're going to have to adjust what our path forward.
Thanks.
If that makes sense.
It does.
Any other questions, concerns? All set, Sheriff?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Tanya?
Yes, so I have some stats from the month of April for you. For the month of April, we reported 840 total documents.
Can you stand up, please?
Pardon?
Can you stand?
Yes. 840 total documents for the month of April. Of that, 460 were paper documents, 380 were e-filed. That total number is down 2.6% from that month in 2023. And total earnings were $80,933 for the month, down 8.6% compared to 2023.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions or concerns?
Concerns.
Money guy.
This keeps up, and we may not be able to make next budget.
That's right. Pavel?
So I just would like to give you an update for the Maine Plan project in jail. So for the access control portion, DBAT has been completed, intake, medical, and administration. So that's done. So the next phase is other DBATs basically to work on the asset control. Firewalls project that has been completed, so we have new firewalls at each location up and running. Currently, I'm working on finalizing the FEMA grant application for more like cybersecurity in mind, that we can get extra additional features to improve our security. And also, we're working on two-factor authentication for like all Windows computers, which is like required by CGS.
Questions? Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Dave?
The biggest news, we'll call it news, is the federal government, FEMA, has finally got in touch again after I sent in all the paperwork about 6 weeks ago. It was a very long quiet spell. It turns out that our, I'll call it a caseworker, he's got different titles than that, but had a medical incident, and so we were kind of not getting anything done, and then somebody else has taken over from him. We've set up site visits, May 29th. Phil and I will be meeting with one of their inspectors to view one of the damaged areas. So that's progressing now, it's back on track. That's good.
Did that impact the application for the gravel pit that needed to exist?
No, this is one was actually in Caring Place Township. We have a road that goes out of Pleasant Ridge, and it's alongside, it's close to the river, but there's a brook in between. We actually had a landslide that went from the shoulder of the road down to the brook. And we put up some cement barriers around where the shoulder was, and there's no longer, to keep people from going off the edge. But we're probably gonna have to reroute the road a bit to the left, maybe 50 feet, just move it over away from this unstable bank. That's what we'll be looking at.
What's the estimated time frame and all that going on?
The site visit will be in 2 weeks, 29th. After that, I'm unsure. They don't give us that kind of information.
You think it'd be by the time snow flies, or?
Should be, yeah. I think we'll get it done by fall. The land that we're probably gonna have to talk to the landowner if we're gonna move the road over. And it's Central Maine Power owns both sides of the road in that location. So I don't think they'll object to it at all, but we haven't approached them yet.
Yeah, I was asked directly as I was having a good day at one of my favorite gun shops and had one of the local camp guy services up there pretty wound up about that road.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah.
Is that out of pocket?
Was it the Carrying Place Road he was talking about?
It was, right, it was that one that's completely collapsed, yeah.
Okay, because I went across the upper end of that road 2 weeks ago, and when we get into talking about the new vehicle that I'm going to be looking for, it required low range to get across what used to be a nice gravel road. It was eroded so bad you would bear rocks.
So you're saying there's actually worse places than this one that you're just...
Oh, yeah, because this one, most of the road was fine. It's just a shoulder that went away.
Right.
You get further up there, and yeah, it's...
Right, but the shoulder went away, but it's like a
Yeah,
50 or 60 foot drop off the edge.
Yes, yeah, it's a steep
Yeah,
way
that's the
down
one.
the road.
How's the,
There's room to get by.
Yeah.
how's the Bowtown Road? Did that survive?
I haven't been up the Bowtown Road this year yet. We have a Bowtown Road, and we have a North Bowtown Road, and I've not gone up either one yet. Usually this time of year, I'm out checking my road signs, and I was up in Moxie Gore, I got to see all the construction activities going on at the power line Monday of this week. And signs are great over Moxie Gore. Over near Flagstaff Lake and Bowtown area, got a lot missing over there. So, they're on the list to be replaced. But I don't go up Bowtown, there's not too much up there for me to go up and check. Unless they're putting in new houses. They put in a new lodge on South Otter Pond, or the Lower Otter Pond, Little Otter Pond maybe it is. So they were rebuilding in there a couple years ago.
So they got a pretty rotten bridge up there. Well, we'll talk about that.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
How is the CIP construction doing? Is that no damages to the roads or anything? Those are all good.
We actually had some work done, we had fine line paving up, where there's a couple places where small areas have collapsed. And they went up and they cut the asphalt out, repaved. It's only about $4,500. It wasn't anything major at all. And I just drove that road earlier and I didn't even notice where it was done, so. It wasn't anything large.
Thank you. All set?
Yeah.
Christian?
I'll be brief. We have two proposals by the end of the week for really the missing link in upgraded internet service. And that will essentially make Somerset County 100% connected. And we're looking at funding that probably with some of our broadband funds. So one is a large provider, the other is someone we've worked with before in the past, but they're looking at expanding north of Jackman too. So it's a lot better bang for your buck. So I think it'll be an easy choice, but it primarily hits Toulon, Parlin Pond, Johnson Mountain area. And it's 40 to 50 properties. Very expensive per property. But as you know, that's really like the dead zone between, West Works and Jackman. So it's a 24-mile fiber build. So it's pretty expensive. I'll hopefully more to share next month.
All set? Okay. No unfinished business. New business, resolution 2492.
Chair, can I have permission to give my report? Because my report...
Oh, yes.
Has much to do with the upcoming resolutions.
Her objection is,
First of all, Mike Pike is not here. Can you text or call Mike? Major Pike came up to me and wanted to add a name for corrections hiring to the resolution.
Yeah.
But he's gone at this point, so if he could add it.
He had an emergency at the jail.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, maybe maybe I'll just have to wait till the next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I heard it, listen, all you need is a name.
Yeah.
If you could find that would be great.
Just give him a name.
Just give me a name.
So I wanted to update you, something Patrick alluded to, and that's the fact that we did get awarded the funding through the federal government's Community Energy Programs Grant. You're going to see that on a resolution for $76,000. to go towards LED lighting retrofit program. So Patrick and I had a meeting with the folks that facilitate that from the federal government. We talked about reporting, and Patrick and I have agreed to share the load of reporting. I'll do one, and he'll do 30. So-
Very kind. You're gonna stop going downhill. I'm at the bottom.
Very, very well balanced, you see. You have a name you want first to add to this?
Yes, on resolution 2493. Did you say Derek McCarthy?
Derek McCarthy.
And this is a hiring?
No, we're promoting Corrections Officer Derek McCarthy to corporal.
Assistant jail, assistant shift.
Assistant shift leader, did you say?
Yes.
And that's corporal.
Yeah, the rank is corporal, but they're assistant supervisor.
Okay.
Just a couple other things. I'd like to thank Commissioners Seekins and Johnson for their help over the last 4 meetings with the corrections officers as we try to finalize the Teamsters contract. And I think it was a slog today, but we got through it. And I believe we're at a place now where we have tentative agreement on a new contract. And I will be sending out a list of the agreements to Joe Pacone for him to share with the union members, for them to vote on it. And then I'll be presenting one for the commissioners to review at their next meeting. So we covered, there's 44 articles in that contract, and we made changes both in favor of the workers and in favor of the county to almost half of them. So it was quite an undertaking to kind of maybe tighten up some language that needed to be tightened up in that corrections contract. So, and speaking of that, what the sheriff wanted to tell you, but he didn't have time because we got talking about marijuana, is that there is a resolution here to raise the pay for reserve corrections officers. Those are corrections officers that are not in the union. And so this is a request that's coming to the sheriff from you. I don't know, Sheriff.
Yeah, thank you. So presently, starting, the emphasis is presently, starting wage for a corrections officer in the facility is $21.23 an hour. Reserves are paid $17 an hour. And so what I am suggesting is a $1 pay raise immediately, and July 1st, another $1. So the total will be $19 an hour for reserve.
And the last thing I wanted to, thank you, Sheriff. The last thing I wanted to mention was Juneteenth falls on a Wednesday when you would typically have a commissioners meeting, June 19th. That is now a state and federal holiday, so the county courthouse will be closed that day. And it seems like everything's falling into place for Commissioner Alsop to meet once every 2 months.
That would be prohibited by the charter.
Well, I didn't know if the commission wanted to think about what they wanted to do to move to the next week, or just only have one meeting in June, so.
We can discuss that next.
But in fact, the next one would be within that 3-week wage anyway, right?
Our next meeting is 3 weeks from now, right?
That's correct.
And then we can have a trial, a pilot project. In the summer, let's meet every 3 weeks, see how it goes.
Instead of in the evening, we'll just do
So you want to discuss that on the June 5th meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we should have that.
That's all I had, if there were no questions.
With room for resolution, should we decide one way or the other?
Okay.
Okay, so now that how are you doing with your administrator's report?
I'm done.
Thank you. So I may move on to Resolution 2492 to approve the hiring of Greg Sides as deputy, patrol deputy for the Somerset County Sheriff's Office.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? And Resolution 2493 to authorize the hiring of Corey Peasley and the promotion of Derek McCarthy to Corporal Assistant Shift Leader and Shanna Brown to Sergeant at the Somerset County Jail.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Resolution 2494 to authorize an increase in wages for corrections officer reserves. You specify that for $1 starting immediately and then $1 beginning July 1st.
So moved. Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Resolution 2495 to authorize the payment of $8,166.50 to the VFW Harvard Bishop Post 7865 in Madison from Community Benefit Funds per grant award approved on December 20th, 2023.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Let's go. Resolution 2496 to authorize the change to use for the Community Benefit Grant Award approved to the Heartland Historical Society on December 20th, 2023 to allow for the funds to be spent on ADA renovations to their new building.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Thank you. And Resolution 2497 to accept the award of $76,720 from the U.S. Department of Energy, State and Community Energy Programs for LED light replacements.
Second.
And I really want to thank Patrick and Christian for the work that they put in, and Tim, his one report.
And that's Tim and Patrick.
Well, I brought it to you, Christian, and then we brought in Patrick, and I let you guys handle it. You did a great job. Thank you very much. And I see that Patrick was able to move it over to Tim. So, it's good. I know that was quite a go back and forth with parties that be to finally get the grant. Thank you. It'll be great. All in favor?
Did we get a motion?
Do we have a motion?
Yeah, we did.
I second.
And we're all in favor.
Yeah, we are.
I hope.
Capital Reserve expenditures, 2498, to authorize $100,000 in community benefit funds to be sent to Somerset Development Corporation. It says to be sent, not to,
Because you're sending it to SCDC so they can lend it.
right.
With that, we met in January, right? That loan process took about a month. We requested an updated action plan, a construction plan of, if we give you this money, how are we gonna finish this project? And so we waited a little bit for that. The loan docs as of this morning are executed. We'll be wiring our money over tomorrow. Once we receive the county funds, we'll wire that over as well. They've been back in the mill for over a month now, and have revised some construction plans with some of their losses. But they do have an open house, 1:30 to 4:30 on Sunday. Anybody wants to go in and see.
Did we have a motion and a second?
Not yet.
Let's do that first before we go. Second. Okay, discussion, Christian.
Sorry.
Open house, Sunday?
Sunday, 1:30 to 4:30.
All right. Do they do anything about the basement, like not use it for anything?
He's gonna put a dam up around the building.
They drown-proof in the doors.
Right, they did update the structure of the doors so that this wouldn't happen again.
I will say a storm not that long ago when the water was high again.
You guys who haven't sent them money yet, maybe we'll,
And you do have the language that this $100,000 that we're providing is non-forgivable loan.
Yes.
Remember, that's part of our, otherwise we'll come for you.
I have a question. The whole idea behind these funds were to bridge the gap between the time that they get the funds from their legal claim.
Yeah.
But it's been 4 or 5 months now. Have they received their funds already? Is this a moot point?
That's a good question.
Part of the application was their insurance, not legal, their insurance funds were not going to be sufficient.
Oh,
Right, there's a shortage.
So there was a $500,000 gap that many entities were
I
trying to help.
misunderstood. I thought it was just, so
It wasn't a
once they
bridge, right.
keep the employees there and bridge it.
Right.
And then pay the loan back once they get their.
Their intent is to pay us all off early. Essentially refi everything and pay us all off, so hopefully that happens.
Any further comments? All in favor? Any opposed? One opposed. Organized Territory Resolution 2499 to authorize an RFP for the purchase of a work truck to use in the unorganized territory.
So,
Discussion?
Is that the one that has low gear?
Yeah, the issue with the truck I have now, which has been a very good truck, is 2016, and it's starting to rust. It's got wear and tear on it. Mileage is low, partially because of COVID. When COVID was going on, we weren't running around the county going to meetings. The ones we did have were on Zoom. So trade-in value should be good. It's only got about 52,000 miles on it right now. And come July 1st, we're going to have 44,000 in the account to replace that truck. That, with the trade-in, should get me into something new. They have changed things drastically from when I bought that 2016. You cannot buy an 8-foot work truck with an off-road package with it, the Z71 or the X31. They don't make them anymore. And the one that I test drove, that was over to Heights, and they arranged me to test drive one, I realized there's something wrong with this truck. There's no low range. The transfer case was single speed with terrain moves, is the way they put it. And if you know anything about off-roading, you don't want something applying brakes when you're trying to get somewhere. So I have to actually move up to the next package. I can't have an 8-foot bed. I've got to have a double cab, about a 6.5-foot bed. I can work around that. But that's the only one I can get an off-road package on, with the skid plates, the limited slip rear end, and the 2-speed transfer case. So that's what I'm looking at.
And it runs on petroleum products.
Do that.
Lot of extensions.
Just carry a big generator in the back of the truck, that's all.
Lots of gallons of gas.
Well, you know, I've got the wind out.
You tell him, John.
Charging stations in.
You should be able to plug into a camp that we're plowing the road for.
They don't have power though.
Plowing the road, but they don't have power.
Okay, so you'll have an RFP that matches that description and, okay. So, any other discussion? All in favor? And warrants, resolution 24-100 to approve the treasurer's warrant for general fund, Somerset County Jail, unorganized territories, and TIF community benefit for a total amount of $424,308.27.
second.
Discussion? All in favor? Good. Miscellaneous discussion items?
I'll just make mention of this. was a privilege this last week to go up and have Mike and Captain City invite me to meet with and speak to the corrections officers, because it was Corrections Officer Appreciation Week, and I did that on behalf of all 5 commissioners.
Thank you.
Was really well received, and just was a great time, talking to them individually as well as a group. So just wanted to let you guys know that happened, and it was good and well received. They were real appreciative of someone coming up and talking with them.
And thank you for the invitation, but 6 a.m. is kind of early.
Just the end is early, yeah.
It is?
Oh, yeah, well, for some of us it is, but.
Oh, this has to execute documents. Any other documents? Just the warrant? Well, apparently not. Well, I thought we had a couple, deputy things. Thank you. Jim, is there anything for the hires to sign for the new deputy?
No. I haven't got those yet.
Okay.
So they know where the payment is.
So Karen didn't bring the, anything other than.
It's huge.
Yeah, we want to move those.
Three times.
We're going out tomorrow.
So anyway,
We got Mike, he wants to, Mike Smith to talk about EMA.
for years.
We got,
I had way more success with no detours.
go to visit Jim. I got you too.
What do you use for?
Talk about lunch.
Just a regular shot?
Okay, I guess.
Yeah, I've got 12 of these.